Mic check, please.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ducks Unlimited podcast.
I'm your host, Dr. Mike Brazier.
I'm your host, Katie Burke.
I'm your host, Dr. Jared Henson. And I'm your host, Matt Harrison.
Welcome to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, the only podcast about all things waterfowl. From hunting insights to science-based discussions about ducks, geese, and issues affecting waterfowl and wetlands conservation in North America. The DUPodcast, sponsored by Purina Pro Plan, the official performance dog food of Ducks Unlimited. Purina Pro Plan, always advancing. Also proudly sponsored by Bird Dog Whiskey and Cocktails. Whether you're winding down with your best friend or celebrating with your favorite crew, Bird Dog brings award-winning flavor to every moment. Enjoy responsibly.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ducks Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harrison, and I have a very special guest with me here today that really and truly doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway, Mr. Jim Ronquest. How you doing, Mr. Jim?
I'm good, Brother Matt. Thank you, bud. I appreciate them kind words.
Absolutely. I am super excited to have you on. Whenever Ducks Unlimited told me, hey, you're going to be hosting some of our podcast episodes coming up, I was like, I know who I have to get on there, and that is Mr. Jim Ronquest. So it is such a pleasure to have you on the Ducks Unlimited podcast. I know this isn't your first time to be on it, but it's my first time hosting you, so I'm super excited because I've got about 3,200 questions I'm going to ask you. You ready?
Man, I'm the only guy asking questions, so that's all good, bud. I appreciate it.
Oh, me. No, y'all. So just to, I know the answer to this question, and I know it's a dumb question, but are you ready for duck season?
It depends on your perspective there, right? So are you ready for duck season? Yes, mentally for sure, ready to get going. Physically, absolutely not. I've got blinds. I'm building one big new duck blind on a place that's not complete. I've got several blinds that need brushed. I got pits that need pumped out. I got some woods roads that need cleaned up. I've got a pile to do. So in that respect, no, absolutely not ready for duck season. But as far as being ready, yeah, I say that. Every year you always look forward to duck season. Mm-hmm. But for me and you probably, you kind of got to mentally get yourself prepared for what's fixing to happen. Because I tell people all the time, I said, look, duck season is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you have to, as crazy as this sounds, you have to be mentally prepared for that going into it.
You do, and especially the role that you have at Drake Waterfowl, mine at Ducks Unlimited, you know, it's part of our job. Like, yes. You know what I mean? And like you said, the mental aspect of it, just from the planning the trips, making sure you have, you know, the right people in place, the gear in place. I mean, I started months ago on planning mine. So, I mean, once it gets here, like you said, I mean, it's been a marathon the whole time. It's not a sprint. So mentally, I think I'm ready too, but like you said, there's still stuff that I haven't, you know, squared away yet either. I'm like, I got to get that done. I got to get that done.
Yes.
But I'm ready to be in the woods chasing some ducks. I think you are.
Yes, sir. I'm ready for a cold, crisp morning and frost on the ground, little breeze blowing, some ducks chattering. Yes, sir. I'm ready for that.
All right. What year does this make for you now chasing ducks?
Man, I figured it up just a few minutes ago, and I hate to say this because you've heard the old saying, if I knew I was going to live this long, I'd took better care of myself. But this will be my 50th year
50?
Of waterfowl. I couldn't believe it.
That's almost double my age.
Oh, man. That really makes me feel young. Thank you, bud. No, I couldn't believe it when I was figuring it up. I said, goodness, this is 50 years since I pulled, actually 51 since I pulled the trigger on my first green top.
That is unbelievable. 50 years.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I'm that old.
No,
so,
you're not.
You know, it's all good.
You're just getting broke in.
That's right. That's right. But no, 50 years of chasing them suckers.
Wow, that's amazing. So clearly, you've been at it a long time. You've been at it. I mean, you've seen the years, the change. You've seen from no social media to social media. You've seen how competitive it is, you know, now getting a certain spot. You've seen it really and truly. I mean, just about all aspects of and I'm not trying to make you sound old here, but you've seen the game change. How much has it changed over those 50 years to you, and what are some of the ways that you have seen it change?
It's changed a lot, for sure. just I don't want to get into attitudes or none of that, but one of the biggest things is technology.
Yep.
In both good and bad ways.
Yep.
The original GPS system was the guide positioning system. You had to know where you were going. And you learned your way around a little better. I got lost a lot like everybody else did. You learn to read a compass, get around. But I would say the big ones would be the mapping programs.
Yeah.
Your OnX.
Even your Google Maps.
Maps, OnX, and then the social web-based stuff. It's easier for folks nowadays to learn. You can get on YouTube, Google it. You want to learn something about duck hunting or decoys or
you can find it.
You can find it. Used to, you had to know somebody or it was passed on to you. Now you can go learn it. Now, if somebody can pass it on to you and then you can learn it from there, along with the technical advantages, it's great. But there's that and social media, the information age. Here's one we hear a lot. Being around DU, you hear a lot of people talking about flyway shifting. Mm-hmm. You hear this a lot. Flyway shifted to Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas. I spent a good bit of time in Nebraska and Kansas riding them old long pasture roads and river bottoms, and you'll find old defunct duck blinds scattered all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say them cowboys out there been hunting ducks as long as we have.
Long time.
I don't think nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And when you look at band reports and whatnot, I'm following me going down a rabbit hole. But when you hear all the people talk about it, but then you study all the band reports and harvest numbers, it hadn't really changed a lot except people.
Yep.
Now more people know that they're shooting a lot of ducks in the central and southern Central Flyway. They've always been there. It's just,
but people are just the information you can now find out. Like you said, I mean, you can Google where's the best places to duck hunt, and it'll give you. Now, it may not give you a certain hole, but it'll point out places that has been successful over the years. And used to, I mean, you didn't have that.
No, you did not. it wasn't there. So you just kind of learned on your own, or you got in the truck and went, or word of mouth. People's been traveling duck hunting for a long time. Also,
no doubt.
I can remember enjoying that. At one time, you get in the truck and just take off and go,
and
hook
find
on the
ducks.
boat and go find ducks. And we still do that today, but it happens so much faster.
Yeah.
I can remember hunting in the river bottoms one time, and man, we had the whole woods to ourselves. Been like that for a while. And I remember that morning we was waiting on time to go in, sitting in the boat drinking coffee, and I kept hearing boat motors. What the heck where'd all these people coming from? And come to find out, somebody put something out about where ducks were, whatnot,
and they were coming.
Buddy. By the groves, they was coming. So that's probably been the biggest changes. Is the mapping opportunity. You have and the information, the sharing of information through whether it be social media, the web, YouTube, whatever, it gets out there pretty quick.
Yeah, and that's not even talking about gear-wise. I mean, I've heard stories back 30, 40 years ago. I mean, they had to go in with the big old Q-beam light just beaming and, trying to find your spot when it's 20 degrees and you got to put your hand back in your coat for a minute and pull it out.
Or you trying to run the trim button and you're holding your spotlight up here. So the best thing you learn to do is just cut a broom handle off and electric tape your spotlight to a broom handle.
Them hands got cold one too many times to figure that one out.
That's right. That's right.
And I know a guy that still does that, still does it the old way. He don't have the light bar. He's got it just that old, handheld light, and that's the way he finds it.
Sometimes, because you can put that where you want it.
You can. That light bar, you kind of got to get that boat going in that direction.
I keep a handheld by me all the time for that very. What's that right there on that log? So I keep a handheld handy all the time.
And it's just crazy to see, just from all aspects, really, of the waterfowl and game and industry, how it's just changed over, that amount of time. And, like you talked about, just from the mapping standpoint, social media standpoint, you hear a lot of people with the negative side about it, but there's a lot of positive on it too. Just for example, just giving an example here, social media, people, you hear people often say, social media ruin waterfowl hunting, and people have arguments and that. Like you said, years and years ago, nobody knew, in this certain area, there's a bunch of ducks and people have been successful there and hunting and shooting ducks. And then one picture gets posted and, they put a location and boom. Next year, there's, instead of 5 people there's 15 people. And the next year, there's 30 because that friend's going to go home and say, man, we found them.
That's right.
And they're going the next year, bring their buddies. And, the trickle effect. But also the positive side. Now, I'll just give a story real quick. we have a friend now in Oklahoma. His name's Briar Adams, and he is literally one of my best friends, great friend of mine. We go up and we stay during waterfowl season. We stay with him. Then during turkey season, we go and stay with him. We hunt ducks in Oklahoma. We hunt turkeys in Oklahoma. We hunt hogs in Oklahoma. And I would have never met Briar if it wasn't for social media.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a friend that now calls all the time, checks in, comes and spends New Year's with us. And if it wasn't for social media, I would have never met him. So there's good that comes from a lot of the change that has taken place.
There's positives and negatives with everything.
Everything.
I don't care what it is. As we move forward in time, evolution is ongoing. So we get better, they get better. There's good and bad. It's just how you. I'm not going to say perceive it, but how you live it.
Correct.
I think it comes down to personal attitude.
That's right. And that's what my next point is. Be the one that makes the positive impact. It starts with you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's easy to point fingers and say, well, he's doing this or she's doing that and that group's doing that. And well, be the person to make the change. Be the person to make the difference for the positive, because this day and age, it's super easy to see people pointing that finger, but it's like I've always heard, you got three pointing right back at you when you're pointing that finger.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's a good one.
So always remember, change starts with you.
Yes.
Change starts with you. So be that positive impact.
It's not hard to be positive. We got enough negativity in the world.
Oh goodness.
Let's be positive.
Yeah.
Have fun. Enjoy it for what it is. One of my deals too, you're talking about, you think social media and, the log shots, what people do. I laughed one year, somebody took all their decoys, stacked them up on a log last day of duck season for a log shot. I thought that was genius, whoever did it. I thought it was funny. But a buddy of mine from North Louisiana named William Colvin talked to me one time. He said, man, Jimbo, we need to invent a how many hat. I said, what? What are you talking about, a how many hat? He said, it's a how many hat. He said, say you've been crappie fishing or duck hunting. You go back and eat dinner or breakfast or a cup of coffee or have a Coke, whatever. Said, folks don't ask you, man, did you have a good time? Did fish bite?
They said, how many did you catch?
How many did you catch? Or how many ducks did you shoot? He said, I just want a how many hat. That way I just walk in there, I just dialed it up and just pointed at my hat.
Just put a number up there, huh? You ain't got to ask.
Too many people worrying about the how many instead of how they played the game. Did they enjoy the day? Was there some good dog work? What was special about, maybe a pair of ducks that broke out and fell in? Or the little things that make us enjoy what we do is way more important than the full straps. Sure, I love to have a full strap of ducks and smell gunpowder and a wore out wet dog, but there's more to it than that. There's more to it than that.
There is, and especially the older I get, we just had a podcast a couple weeks ago about the different types of hunters, like what kind of hunter are you? And it's literally broken down into the types of hunters. And they asked me this. One of the questions they asked me, they were like, "What do you consider like a successful hunt?" And God's honest truth, I mean, this is as true as I could possibly be. Don't get me wrong. Like you just said, who doesn't enjoy going to shoot a bunch of ducks,
Absolutely.
With friends and laugh and enjoy. But God's honest truth, if you told me you create the perfect hunt right now, it would be me and my brother going to find a hole where we're knee deep in some timber and it's just me and him shooting some mallards. That God's honest truth, because we've done that, and that's the most memorable hunts ever. Is being in the woods with him, me and him limited out on our ducks, and going about our day. And I've been to where you have hunts where you can pile them up on a log and take the picture. I'm not going to lie and say that wasn't fun,
right?
But truly, what means the most to me and what I enjoy the most is truly being in the woods with my brother and maybe one or two more friends and just enjoying it. And sometimes that may be shooting 4 ducks. Maybe. Out of 4 people. But did we enjoy it? Did we get to work some ducks, have fun, cut loose? Absolutely.
With my favorite hunt last duck season, river was up. We got that cold front. River was just enough to be wrong. And I went one morning by myself. Me and my dog, Charlie, didn't put the boat in until after daylight. Just wasn't in no hurry. Just wanted to ease up, hunt late in the morning. Kind of eased up there, found some ducks, and shot my 4 with a 28 gauge. But I made it. Not that I'm not a good shot, but
yeah, you are.
I kind of made it work where there was one tree had a limb on us. Okay, here's my deal for today. I got to make them come under that limb
before you shoot them.
Before I shoot them. So, and Miss Charlie picked them all up. And it wasn't about a big old stack of ducks or a big, 10-man limit shoot, which are great, but it was just going duck hunting.
Yeah.
For going duck hunting. No decoys. Just get up the shade, me and my old dog and a duck call. Now, that was a truly fun hunt, but it wasn't a big hunt.
Yeah.
But it was enjoyable. And I didn't have nobody. It was just me and her. So it was good. So I get it.
And that's really and truly what is going to stick out to you in another 10, 15 years. Like when you think about, hey, the 2023 season, what stuck out to you? That hunt with you and Charlie. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Because looking back on, like I said, when somebody asks, what's one of your favorite hunts? It's me and my brother, we found, literally we were hunting Cutoff Creek, and found I know.
Rumors.
Hey, look, you don't know. It may not have been at Cutoff.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I'm messing. But we found an old blowdown. I mean, you couldn't. It's about the size of this podcast studio, if that, and just an old blowdown, And for some reason, that's where they wanted to be. And one of the groups that we worked, I guarantee you, we worked them for 7-8 minutes. I mean, worked them and worked them and worked them and worked them and worked them, and finally, I mean, they were just feet down, 4 foot off the water, and I think we dropped 5 out of that one group. So, I mean, it was just one of those, that's what sticks out to me is those type of hunts.
Right.
But, and so, okay, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit. Okay. And this is what I'm most excited about. My blood's already starting to flow a little bit more because this is my favorite part of waterfowl hunting outside of relationships and stuff like that. But we're about to talk calling ducks.
Okay.
And like I said, I mean, I'm getting jittery thinking about it. I love it. That's what I'm passionate about. I've told people this 1,000 times. If you told me you can either take your call or your gun, one of the two, what are you taking? I'm taking my call. Just because, it's what I enjoy. I love
call and my dog.
Yeah, it's what I enjoy. It's an art. It's it's a game. It's a challenge. To truly learn how to call ducks and make them do what you need them to do. So I want to talk just a minute about that, and I'm gonna give you some scenarios.
Oh, boy.
Okay. So we're getting a little tricky here. Okay.
Oh, boy. This could be fun.
This could be. And now, look, and I also know with these scenarios I'm going to give you, there's variables with this. There's certain aspects that could be different. So I get that. But we're just going to take an overall certain scenario, going to give it to you. And you just kind of take your general idea and you go with it. You know what I mean? Because I know that some days a duck wants to hear one thing and nothing else, and some days they don't want to hear nothing, and some days they want to hear everything. I get that. But I'm just going to give you some scenarios and just kind of walk us through and break it down, kind of what you're looking for, how you would approach a certain situation, and go from there. How's that sound?
Works for me, buddy.
Perfect. Okay. So let's say we have a bad weather day, okay? Not saying it's pouring rain, but just more overcast, kind of doom and gloom, maybe not just a ton of wind, but overcast, maybe a little light mist here and there, just not ideal, you know what I'm saying? So let's say that's the day, okay? Let's say we have a group of, let's say we have a group of 5 mallards, okay? Not treetop high, not sky high. We're just kind of cruising, looking for a spot to stop. Let's say, it's you by yourself, because I know that can kind of throw another variable. Do you have a group with you? How are they calling? But let's just say it's just you and Charlie. You're hunting, and this group of 5 mallards is cruising along, and you're trying to get them in. So,
what time of year is it?
Let's say I don't want to say early, and I don't want to say late, because I know that's. Let's just say slap dab middle of the season, and you've got these ducks that you're. Yeah,
they're just cruising along.
They're cruising along.
So this covers a lot of things. So the first thing I want to say would cover any scenario. There's a difference between calling at ducks and calling to ducks. Yeah. You got to call at them before you can call to them. So the first thing I'm going to look up, I'm going to see them ducks, and I'm going to make a decision on how they're flying, on how I want to start. Probably going to hit a lick of some sort. May hit a hard feed call. Don't know. Just depends on where we're at, what we're doing, unless you're there. But probably hit them with a lick. Whap, 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 whap.
Let them know you're there.
I'm calling at them. Just throw another hen down here. I want to see how they react, if they react. Yeah. So if you get a reaction out of that, let them make the next move. You know, if you get a good hard relaxing, you know, we all love it when you hit that call and you see them spin around, you know.
And you hear that wind just...
We all love that, right? But if you get that, let them come. But if you get just that stop, I call it a check. You see them kind of check just a little bit, pour it right back on them again. Pop, 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 pop. And just...
kind of with that same lick.
Same lick. Yeah, same lick. I want to see what they do. So if they if they've checked once, that time they may start sailing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to just see if they start to turn. So watching their attitude,
Mm-hmm.
right? If their butt's down a little bit and they slow down, they're sailing, they start to turn, just kind of pull them through the turn.
Yeah.
You know, you can screw up there too. A lot of it depends on how far out they are.
Yeah.
You know, so we're just,
let's say medium.
Yeah,
they're
just
not
playing the game.
right there, but they're not.
and if I don't have a lot of folks around, I'm going to tell myself not to call till I have to at that
Gotcha.
point. Once they
So if you start to lose them,
then
that's
I'll
when
pick them back up.
Gotcha.
We are all, and let me raise both my hands, guilty of calling too much.
Absolutely.
You know, way too. I'm bad guilty of it. But the more I watch it and try harder, your call's more effective when you don't overuse it.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to try to watch them ducks if they're making a move around. Just let them come. If they start to pick up or start to move away, I'm going to come back with something else. Whether it be a feed chatter, hit a lick, something to try to pull them back around. And then if they're still going, I'm going to keep stepping it up, trying to make something happen. But if they pull back around, depending on how aggressive they're approaching my setup, if they're coming hard and fast, I ain't doing nothing. If they're just kind of slowly, I'm going to chatter at them a little bit. Just kind of keep them thinking about me.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got other ducks or folks around you. Sometimes if you let off, you lose them. So that's where sometimes just that easy chatter. Just keep them easing towards you a little bit. Don't just hammer it in their face, but, you know, keep it blowed away from them. Blow it to water, you know. But just let them come to that sound. And just, again, watching their body language is as much as blowing that call.
Yeah.
Just seeing what they tell you. If they make a circle, you know, this cloudy day you're talking about, they probably ain't just going to come straight in. They're going to circle.
They're looking.
You can't hide good on cloudy days.
And you'll
anyways.
see, and I know that you've seen it, and because I have too, is you'll see sometimes that lead duck, their head, you
They're
know how
looking. They're looking.
You'll literally see that head poking out, looking around.
Yeah. I've seen you see them turn their head over, you know, to see you. But I'm gonna watch them. If they make that circle, really watch their attitude. You know, if their butt's down and they're flying slow looking, you got a chance. And I know what's happened to you. They level out and they're going to make another pass higher. You can blow all you want to, but they're gone.
They're done.
They're done. They're done. We as duck hunters, we try.
Yeah, and then you just know at that point, like, there's no.
Yeah, you may get one back. I've had it where I've got one or two back, but typically they're done.
And
you know, at that point.
One of my favorite things in that, let's say that certain scenario, is when, like you said, you kind of watch them and you can see they're interested. Like you're right there at the brink of finishing them. You know what I mean? But I love seeing them. They're still a little bit above treetop, but they go out about 300-400 yards and they'll turn. And a lot of times I've noticed this, and this may just be my own scenarios that I've made up in my own head, but a lot of times when you see them go down and they'll come back and they'll line out, and a lot of times that's when I've been like, okay, they're about to do it. You know what I mean? You'll kind of see them, not lose them, of course, but they'll just kind of go and get a little bit of distance between you and them and come right back and just
in that situation, which may be a little different, especially in the woods, let them get the wind. Unless you got a pile of folks around you, don't turn them back into the wind too quick.
Yep.
But I would say too, this first scenario you talked about, go easy on them. If ducks get on top of you, and if you feel you have to call, go get really easy with them.
Yeah.
You know, back off that call a little bit.
And you just said something that's so important that I have also found out, because me and you got to share a blind. I think it was now 2 years ago whenever we got to hunt together. And it's something I'd noticed before, you know, with calling ducks, but then also when I was literally just listening to everything we're calling in the certain scenarios, because I think we had that morning we hunted was about like that situation I just told you.
Yeah.
But I noticed one thing I have seen with other hunters, okay, is a lot of times, let's say you got a group that's super, you know, locked into you. Well, they're trying to get a little bit of distance, and they ain't 50 yards, and you're back, trying to get them back. Let them get some distance, because I noticed that with you, and I've done it with myself as well. let them get out there a little bit before you start back on them. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, like you said, if they're going away, I don't mean they're leaving. You know what I mean? Like, don't blow them out of the hole because you're scared that they're not coming back. Let them get out there just a little bit, because I noticed that with you, that you did that, very well, is letting them get out there a little bit before you start back on them.
Yeah, let them get out there, give them room to turn around. Now, sure, there's scenarios where you're in public woods or something, and you need to turn them back inside the hole pretty quick. Don't get me wrong, but the less you have to try to do stuff to them, the better they'll be. Again, knowing where you're at time of year and watching how those ducks are reacting will tell you a whole lot of what you got to do calling wise.
Yep. Perfect. Well, that's our first scenario. Okay.
So now I hope we got somewhere on it. I don't know.
I learned something. So, scenario number 2.
Okay.
It's just the opposite.
Oh.
We're talking about bluebird sky, baby.
Is the wind blowing?
We got about a 10, 15 mile an hour north wind.
Awesome.
Okay. I'm talking about bluebird sky. There's not a single cloud up there. Just one of those days. It's cool, got a good wind. All right, let's say there's a group of 15 high fly mallards. We're talking about up there where you got to break them out, okay? I'm talking, just not the ones that you're like, hey, can you see those way up there? But ones that they really don't have plans on being where you're at.
They're going.
You know what I mean?
They're trading ducks.
They're trading ducks. So what's the scenario, how you approach that? I know you got to break them out. I know you got to get it out there to them first, but how are you kind of treating that? And I know scenarios, again, can play a factor in that, but what's kind of your approach? Is beautiful day, good north wind, group of big, it's a big group, it's not a solo flying over, but you got that high wad of ducks flying over you.
Yep. Them are kind of my favorites. And I'm going to say, add to your scenario, that this high pressure system hadn't been in too long. It's kind of fresh. We just had a cold front. So these are our favorite ducks, right? That's why we go duck hunting. I'm going to start off hitting them ducks hard. Like the last scenario, you got to call at them before you can call to them. I want to see how that, but I'm going to rear down and hit them, boy. Pap, 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 pap. I'm going to hit them hard. Pap, pap, pap. I want some punch in that call. I want to watch their reaction. If you get them to check, and you see them check, I want to come back, throw the hard feed. And what I'm trying to do right there, I want to listen to me, and then if you'll get where they spin around there and get the wind, you see them tuck them wings down.
And that's when you can really just hear that wind cutting.
Just let them come. But keep that call close. Sometimes them high ducks like that, when you get them bowed up and coming hard on that hard
So
feed,
when you say close, though, explain that. When you say keep that call close.
Yeah, all right. Keep your call right here watching them ducks, because if they're really high ducks, and once you get them broke around, you see them do that, and you let off the call, if they're coming on that hard breaking feed, they're coming,
So you're saying just be ready.
But if you let off of it, I want them to keep coming.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when you let off, you lose them.
Yeah.
You let off, they'll be drawn up like this, and then if you see them start them wings start to ease out, you get back on them again, pull them back in. If not, a lot of times they'll do like this. You want to let up on them, and they'll let up, and then they'll slide, and then they got a high circle, and then you're back. God dang it! Then then here you go again,
back at square one,
trying to get them back around. So you got to kind of pay attention to that. But as duck hunters and callers, those are the ducks that we like.
I ain't no doubt. That's the ones that, because once you break them, that's when that energy just goes. You get excited because now you got their attention. And I, like you said, staying on them. I feel like on that certain scenario, a lot of times those ducks you have to stay on, because when you let off a lot of, and now you have your, like I said, I'm not saying you got to stay on them in this scenario, but a lot of times, like you said, I've had it where I've been hunting with a group of 8 people where you would have probably thought y'all are idiots for how y'all are calling right now, just because the whole time, one of us may have been, man, and then like, and just trying our best to keep them engaged the whole time. Because like you said, if you let off, it's just like you start to see them wings kind of creep out, and
that's right.
Slide. And
especially if you're hunting kind of crowded public ground a little bit, you got to keep them thinking about you, keep them on you. That's where, if you got buddies with you, there's different things you do. You keep that wall of sound up, but also know when to let off. That's probably the biggest thing I see, guys. Being a past competitive caller, if you can go, let's go to a really good woods hole. We've been shooting them every day. You take 4 or 5 world champions who's never hunted together before, and your hunt success just went to crap right there because everybody's trying to outdo his buddy, and you're not.
8 people trying to finish
at the same time. It don't work. You gotta know when to let off.
Yeah.
You know, but that's kind of the fun of calling ducks. You know, it's not.
Doubt.
I think a lot of times as duck hunters, we kind of make it maybe more mystical than it really is. But yet at the same time, that's what makes it fun.
And speaking on this too, you know, a lot of our listeners are very well-educated hunters, but then you have some, too, that aren't. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to talk, before we get into our last scenario, I want to talk a little bit about what you just kind of hinted at a little bit there, okay? And I'll be completely honest, when I first started duck hunting, my dad didn't duck hunt, our papaw didn't duck hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my brother started out shooting wood ducks on the Leaf River, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't podcasts, there wasn't really many YouTube video, like, you know, and I'm not saying it was 50 years ago. We didn't have, you know, there was stuff out there, but it still wasn't what it was
It's not
today.
like it is now.
We're talking 15, 16 years ago when we first started. So that's one thing we had to learn is, you know, one mistake I also see a lot of times is, say, let's say you got 4 or 5 of your buddies. Let's just say that, okay? And this isn't the last scenario I'm giving you, but to talk a little bit about the last scenario. One thing I notice is, you know, let's say you have the 5 or 6 hunters and you got a group of ducks that are really close to finishing. A lot of things and a lot of times that I see is you've got 4 people still trying to finish the ducks. Like, you don't see a whole lot in a group setting where you got that one person. All right. And look, I'll be completely honest. Like you said, I love calling so much. A lot of times I swallow my pride and I say, I'm dropping my call. I'm going to let, you know, I've had the privilege to hunt with some really good hunters like yourself, and I even did it when I was hunting with you. I would help you, you know, break them out or help you try to turn them, which I probably didn't do any good at. But once it got time to finish ducks, I said, look, I'm done. You know, and I'm not saying there's not a time that, you know, if they do swing out wide, kind of hit them with something a little soft or turn another way and hit them with something. I'm not saying that, but a lot of mistakes that I see being made in the duck hunting world is you got 5 people trying to finish a group of ducks.
And if they're not used to hunting together all the time, they'll struggle. You know, there's, to your point, there's a lot of times the best call to make is the call to put it in your pocket. You know,
that's
no
the
matter
truth.
who you are.
That's the truth. And that takes swallowing a little bit of your pride, because us duck hunters, especially if you've been around a little while, that's tough to do.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, I used to work for Arent calls before I was with Drake Waterfowl, past world champion. You know, building and blowing duck calls is a big part of my life.
That's your life.
But at the same time, I will do that. I'll leave my call if there's a bunch of other good callers, and I think they're calling too much. I'll put my call up quickly. Before we get into that, I'm gonna throw a piece of etiquette out here too, and I try to do this. Unless I really know the folks or whatever. But if you're an invited guest to somewhere with folks, keep your call in your pocket until they ask you to call. You'll get invited back a lot more. A
lot more, because like you said, when you're invited to a place like that, a lot of times you have somebody who's in charge.
And that host is probably a pretty successful duck caller. You know, in my deal, there's a lot of times they'll, no, Jimbo, you run the hunt. And that's fine. But until I'm told that, I'm a guest.
Yep.
Absolute
Put that
guest,
call in your
100%.
pocket.
Yep. You know, not have them stuffed in my pocket.
And a lot of times, because a lot of times people will, especially somebody like you that's been a world champion, if you're not calling, they're going to look down there real quick and say, hey, take that call out.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, all right, look, we thank you, but it's time for you to go to work.
That's right. That's right.
But that's a great point. That's a very good little, I like to call it a little nugget to keep in your pocket. When you get invited somewhere, don't be the type, all right, no, let me finish them here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because we've all been around somebody like that, and you're just like, I don't know if I'm going to invite them back.
That's right. I'm not going to say who or where, but I was in a really nice piece of private woods, and we was shooting video, and the whole deal was trying to make a TV show, and you know, I was kind of running the hunt a little bit. Man, got a bunch spun around. Come around nice. They was getting the wind on the far side of the hole. Just fixing to start angel winging in. I'd set my call down, just watching. It's not just let them do their thing. And some dude, all of a sudden, he goes, on duck call. And he scared me worse than he scared the ducks when he did that. And them ducks moved out. I said, God dang, man. I said, well look here, partner. I'll ask you if we want to have. Oh, I was mad. I was so mad. But it
They hit one of the.
Oh yeah, he hit that. Yeah, you
gargling into a duck call.
Yeah, oh, it's bad. Scary. Like I said, it scared me worse than it scared the ducks, but it scared them pretty bad. So that's also things you work out.
I love it. Yeah. Okay. So going into our last scenario. Okay. This is one of the coolest types of scenarios in my own opinion now, okay? Because I know that you've been in this same exact spot that I'm about to give, okay? Let's say you've got a group pretty much treetop, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Group of 10, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But you got that old lead hen who is running her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Just a just leading the pack, letting everybody know she's there, just loud. Well, a lot of times what I've seen, to me at least, is that group circle and she'll drop straight in and finish.
Mm-hmm.
And she's sitting on the water, just
looking at her. Yeah, a lot of times she start quacking.
Yep. And just kind of sitting there, waiting for you to move, almost. Like,
oh, yeah.
And she may not even know you're there, but she's just, she's not swimming yet.
She's looking, buddy.
She's not swimming. Literally, she looks like a decoy, but her head's just doing this. And like you said, she's just up there.
If you can see them speculums on her wings when she sits on the water right there, she ain't comfortable yet.
And
so
that
be
group,
real careful.
And that group is still just treetop. And they want to do it, but they're just not yet to that point. So, because at this point now, okay, me personally, I've dropped my call because one, you can't move unless you're behind a tree, Two is if she's talking, let's let her talk. Now, I'm not saying if this goes on for 2 minutes, because I've had it where I've literally been in a staring match with a hen mallard, I felt like, for 3 years, and you're just like, I can't move. We got a wad of ducks working, though. We're not going to shoot her, What are you doing in that certain scenario?
Kind of same thing you are. I'm watching her really close and watching them ducks. And depending on how they're reacting to her sitting there quacking, I'll try to decide if I need to try to hit a lick or not push her out of there. Because no matter how good a duck callers we think we are, how good we think our calls sound, and a lot of them sound very
not
realistic.
As good as old Susie.
You ain't never as good as she is. It's just different. So I'm going to watch how they react to her, but I may try to keep myself behind a tree and watch. This is where we're really watching them ducks. Here's one. I'm going to go out of. I'm going to take a wide loop here to get back to it. So if you think of working ducks, let's say the wind's in your back, where are and say we're in the woods.
Yeah.
All right. So where is the most important part to be paying attention to what those ducks are doing? You don't want them to get too far behind you.
Yeah.
But if they're circling tight behind you, you're okay right there.
Yeah.
But everything as you get downwind to the side and straight out front is what counts. So this old yappy hen's in this bunch of ducks, she's heard you calling, you were trolling or whatever. She's heard you calling. Here she's coming. Hap, 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 hap. You hear them that's really fast. Hap, hap, hap,
yeah.
hap, hap. You just stay right there with her. She'll plop down, and maybe the rest of the bunch doesn't see her. So this is what I want to watch them do. If she's there, I'm going to let them have a pass on their own. But if they're still staying flat and their butt down, they're low, when they cut whichever way they're circling, when they get to the side of me going downwind, even that whole easy, just and a lot of times that won't push her, and they'll hook in. If it pushes her, that ain't the end of the world. Keep paying attention to your lead duck that's in the air. Watch where the front of the bunch is. If you push her out, it's okay. She may pick back up with them. She may not. Don't worry about that. Be paying attention to the lead duck in the bunch, and that's who you need to be paying attention to. Then we was hunting one day on some public ground. Again, shooting video, and there was a couple young ladies with us that was hunting, and they got to laugh and said, we were fussing. All the ducks. We said, gosh dang, we ain't got nothing. We had like 2 ducks hanging on a tree. And she said, I don't know why y'all are upset. There's been 32 separate mallard drakes light on the water and leave, and y'all never shot one. But we was so worried about getting the bunch and getting the footage. We'd have been done and out of there, man. So that's another thing to get onto. But back to your scenario and any of the other scenarios we talked about, if there's more than one, pay attention to the lead duck. Watch what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And now, sometimes if you get one of them big bunches spun up, one of them showing off Mondo wads, it's hard to keep with who's who. Who's who, yeah, because you'll see some of them break off and come back. And that's what'll screw you up, because now you'll be blowing ducks out because you're watching this bunch going here. So always try to stay on the lead bunch. Or sometimes you may get the backside to break and come in, and then the rest of them elbow on top of you. So, and a lot of that would depend on how much the wind's blowing and what kind of weather you got going on. And here's another little nugget. One thing that I have learned as well is, if you ever get the chance to either go to a refuge, a rest area. Oh, I was going to go there too. Just go, hide, and listen. I have learned more. Yes. By finding a raft, or like I said, it can be at a refuge. It can be if you found some ducks off in the woods and, you're scouting and you're not hunting. Cut the motor off, sit for an hour, and listen. I literally sent a video to my brother the other day. This probably, no joke, Mr. Jim, is probably, I would say, 200 mallards just in a wad sitting on the water, okay? Not one of those ducks is in there. Now, you'll have those scenarios too, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, sometimes they ain't talking. They're not talking, and you can learn. And now there are days too that as well as I do that you can't get them to shut up. Right. Where you do hear, oh, you hear it all. You hear all that. But learn on certain weather days, or learn on these days, okay, I know that there's 10 ducks sitting on the water in there. I see 2 cruising over. How are they about to respond? Is it just feed, or is it that old hen going to let them know, hey, we're down here, Some of that listening and is also watching. Watching, yep. Pay attention to what to do. Sometimes ducks on the water will key off in wing beats going across them. I'll sit and watch on here, and you see her cock her head up, she'll pat, 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 or and they'll spin around there and fall in. But that's a good point. Pay attention to that stuff, because there's days you don't need to call as much. And we all going to blow too much. Again, I'll raise both my hands. I'll raise my feet. Yeah, I call too much. However, that being said, them big, long, high-pressure systems and them days where you can see the moon on up in the morning, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and you can still see the moon, that's them days them ducks are normally sitting pretty quiet. Yeah. So they come sailing along there. I'm going to hit them easy and see how they act. Again, you got to call at them before you can call to them, and that's 2 different things. It is. It's no different than if you're over across the room and I want to talk to you about something, I'm gonna holler at you. Hey, Matt. Hey, Matt, come here a second. And then you're going to talk to Then we're going to talk to you. And ducks, geese, turkeys are somewhat the same way. It's not quite the same. We can't humanize it too much. Yeah. But that's relatively true. That's a good way to think about it. It is. And that makes a difference. And, once you get a bunch hooked up, how you call to them can be the difference in how they finish or not. So, and we talk scenarios all day, but until you're standing there and experiencing what's happening and seeing what's happening, all we can talk about is generalities. And you know what else is a funny point is, a lot of times when you learn the most is when you mess up. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? So don't because look, I can tell you, you learn what not to do, and that helps you learn what to do. I've learned. I still learn a whole lot about what not to do, because I screw up a bunch. I screw up a lot, but you got to be trying to screw up. You do, but that's an encouragement to any listeners out there that you may be like, man, I can't
quite get that group to finish. Well, we'll just learn, hey, what did I do? Well, I did this. It didn't work on this certain scenario. So next time I'm going to try something different. Like, don't continue to repeat the same thing over and over. If it's not working, try something different. And I still do that to this day. If it's a morning where you're just not getting much action of getting ducks to listen, I'm like, look, I might try something different, and hit a different lick or do something a little bit different that you've done. And you might be like, hey.
Change calls, change sounds. Yeah. Go clean, go raspy. I don't know. It's even though ducks have all kinds of different voices, just like people do, sometimes they respond better to clear sounds. Sometimes they respond better to something raspy. I don't know why it is.
Yeah.
And, we could talk to Dr. Mike and other people about all of that. And that's what makes calling so much fun.
Yep.
Is it's somewhat, we probably overthink it, but sometimes it is what it is. They're just going to do what they want to do.
They are. They're ducks. At the end of the day, they're ducks.
They got a brain the size of a pea, and they can make grown men look stupid
and cry.
That's right.
No, but that's all great information. Just talking about those scenarios, and like I said before, all that because some people listen to maybe like, well, y'all, that's not exactly right, and that's why I said before is. That's just our general consensus on what we've felt like has helped us, And like you said, we could take all those scenarios and do what we think's best, and on one morning, it don't work.
No, and it's not going to work every time.
It's not. It's not. And and that kind of leads into our next little bit of a section is, okay, choosing the right call. Okay, and calls, like I said again, I'm sure some of our listeners are very well polished duck hunters, and some may be just starting out that are just getting into it, and you've got you've got J-frame, you got cut down, you got a single reed, you got a double reed, you got some that take so much air you would have to put a leaf blower to it to blow. Then you got some that if you put just a little bit of air in, you're blowing the top end out. You
barely breathe on it.
You know what I mean? And I know it's preference. I know what works best for you. I know, you got some hunters that's hunted for 50 years that say, I've never touched a cut down. I'm not going to blow a cut down. I've blown my DR85 for 50 years and I've killed more ducks and more power to you.
That's right.
But how, as a world champion, as somebody that, like you said, was the duck calling industry and word was part of your life for so long. How do you go about choosing a call that you think is best for you?
Yeah, and you're probably not going to get it right on the first try. And that's the beauty of being of people. It's how people in the duck call business stay in the duck call business. The main reason is we are all searching for that magic flute.
Yeah.
And there's no such animal.
Nope.
So that ain't going to happen. The other thing I would say is try different calls. Go to places where you can try calls. And I'm going to say most of the people that listen to this, there's some that are probably just starting and some that's got more experience than I do. Just go find something that you like that feels good. And I will say this too, whether it be the Hadel folks who I know well, they're great people, build great calls, folks at Duck Commander, folks at Arent, most all duck call companies are good people that's going to try to help you out.
Yeah.
But find something, and if you like it, learn it. Maybe the call needs adjusted a little bit. One of the things that used to frustrate me working at shows and people wanting to buy duck calls, they'd come up and want to try one. You'd have all these calls out on the counter. And they'd pick one up and they'd blow it. Well, man, that's too hard. And they'd put it back. Or you'd wipe it off, put it back, and then pick one up. So, man, that was too easy. I said, whoa, hang on a minute, buddy. Let's find what are you looking for, and once they explain kind of what they look for, I'd try whatever model that was. And I said, all right, now blow this, and I'd hear them blow it, and then I'd adjust the call for them. And a lot of times that's the big deal. People will try a duck call and it doesn't fit them. And it could be just a simple snip of a reed, or maybe we need to put a new reed in it that's a little bit longer, or tighten up the cork, or even like back on the Hadels, what we call the floating wedge block design. You can adjust that a little bit to make the call fit the person. So I would also say for a new caller, instead of making that call fit the person, find something close, and then that person learn that call. And then once you learn that first duck call, then if you want to try something different, try something different. But first thing you got to do is learn one and then go from there. And that will get you a long way. And I'd also say this, and kind of goes along with it as far as learning to call. it's easy to try to get too fancy or try to learn too much. Learn to blow a basic quack.
That's literally what I was going to talk about.
Oh, cool. Learn to blow, learn a basic contented quack. Just and the mechanic. We'll get into mechanics later. Learn how to quack quiet, medium, and loud. Then learn a fast lick, pap, 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 and a slow lick. Hap, 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 hap. Learn to blow those 2 licks, quiet, medium, and loud, and learn a basic feed call in the back of your throat, or just a slow roll, ducka, 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 whatever it is. Learn to do that quiet, medium, and loud, and get comfortable with it to where if you look at a bunch of ducks and you go, you don't have to think about it. You just do it.
Yep.
It becomes an extension of your voice. You'll call every duck that wants to be called. You don't have to learn all this fancy stuff. It's fun, and the more you do that, the more you want to learn. More power to you.
Yep.
But don't feel like you have to. One of the best duck callers I've ever spent time in the woods with, Paul Oos Parnell. I'll call him out here. He'll probably get mad at me. Blows a Jensen. You don't want to be next to him in the woods, but he's not fancy.
Yeah,
but he's good,
and that's what's crazy to me is I got the opportunity whenever I was in college to help at a lodge, as in I helped them do all kinds of different things, and I got the privilege to hunt with them a couple times. Tommy Maxwell and Will Maxwell, 2 amazing guys that taught me and my brother a whole lot about duck hunting in itself, but. I would be with them and we would shoot a duck and I may, go out a little ways to retrieve the duck and they may be working another group and I just kind of tuck off in the woods 150, 200 yards, and listening to them at that distance, up close, you may be like, man, they're good. They're really good, but you may not be like, oh, they're not a stage caller or something like that. And you may be like, it could sound better, but you get off 150, 200 yards and they got those old PS Olds. And they got, you're like, did some ducks land and they start quacking in there? Or is that them caught? Or, so that's another thing that I learned is, just because, and it's great. If you want to learn the fancy, all the cadences and all that you can, great if you want to learn that. But if you just learn, like you said, the simple basics, you can kill ducks.
Amen. And that's what kills ducks. Some of the some of the very best duck callers I ever been around, callers of ducks, they weren't necessarily contest guys. They were just good old woods callers that knew how to sound like a duck and blew simple.
Yeah.
My buddy Bobby Joe Willie, one of the very best.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched him turn ducks inside his hole. That's pretty cool. He's the master of quacking. The single quack, making ducks respond to it. But again, learn that fast lick and a slow lick, quiet, medium, loud, basic quack, and basic feed call, and learn how to put it to use, and you'll be fine.
Yep. And it sounds simple, and it is simple.
It is simple. We make it too hard.
Correct.
We make it too hard.
Some of the people listening to that may be like, you got to learn more than a quack. You got to learn more than a feed and a cadence, But like I said, get out there, listen, learn, and you'll be just fine.
If you just sit and watch and listen to ducks, and I'm fortunate, excuse me, I'm sorry about my voices.
No, you can.
If you just sit and watch and listen, and I'm fortunate where I live, I can do that, and field behind the house is flooded, and I can sneak back there and sit down and watch and listen. I still do it to this day. I love doing it. I learn something all the time.
Yep.
Learn something all the time, or I'll hear something, I say, I'll try to put that to use hunting, because we're just trying to build a scenario, and talk them into giving up. That's what it's all about.
That's it. Well, I got just a couple questions in closing, okay?
Sure.
And I just, because I know that these are some of the questions I asked you when I first met you, a couple years ago now. But like I said, just 4 questions, and I want you to answer them. You don't have to go off into a ton of detail. You can if you want to. Totally up to you.
Okay.
But question number 1, what is one of the most memorable hunts you have been on?
Man, I've been on a lot of them. Actually, some of my first ones with my dad. Some of his buddies used to take me hunting all the time. I enjoyed that. But I guess now would be seeing my daughter, who grew up with me being in the outdoor industry and running a guide business, and always gone and not always able to take her, seeing her and her buddies taking them hunting, and they went from wanting to just come watch to then they all got their hunter safety. Then they all want to come shoot.
Now you got to take them.
Now you got to take them, and they want to go duck hunting. And when my daughter shot her first greenhead, that was cool.
That's special.
It was to me because of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
No doubt.
I'd say that getting to hunt with her, and
That's
see her enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
See her want to be a part of it. And even this day, man, she keeps me up to date on what she sees on social media and what's going on with this or that. And she pays attention. So
that's awesome.
I like that. Matter of fact, she's even finishing grad school. Her capstone project is waterfowl based.
Wow.
So she's putting together a list of all the national wildlife refuges in the country that have invalid rest areas, sanctuary, offer any public hunting opportunity, where the money came from to start the refuge.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty cool stuff.
That's an in-depth search.
Oh, man.
A lot of information.
I talked to her on the way here. I said, you better get with it.
Okay, so our next question, what's the craziest thing you've seen in the duck woods?
Craziest thing I've seen
What's the craziest thing?
Man, what is the craziest thing I've seen? I've seen a lot of crazy stuff.
If we need to get back to that question, we can.
Man, I don't know how to answer that one. I really don't. Are you talking about what ducks did, what people did?
Anything you want it to be. What's the craziest thing that you've seen in the duck woods?
I don't know that's anything really special.
While you're thinking on it, I'll give you one of mine. What's the craziest thing? One time, we were hunting on the Leaf River again. It was just me, my dad, and my brother. Who, like again, I said earlier, my dad didn't duck hunt, but we had just started out, and we were getting back to the truck, getting ready to leave, and we were sitting there talking or something, and we see this hen wood duck. Okay, she's just flying. And she's just kind of, going in one direction, not really just kind of loafing. She's just full speed, one direction. And as we watch, we just all three kind of start watching. And next thing we know, she flies straight into an old dead snag that had a hole in it that looked like just a woodpecker hole, just went straight and just right in that hole. And we all I didn't know wood ducks were cavity nesters and, would nest and stuff like that. And we're all just sitting there going, what did we just see? That duck just flew into that tree and not knowing, like I said,
what they do.
That's what they do.
Right.
And we were just all like, oh my goodness. And that was one of the just craziest things I've ever seen just while we were
pretty
out
cool.
hunting.
That's fun stuff. Man, I seen ducks fly, hit trees, knock themselves out. Shoot ducks, land in a tree, you don't get stuck. That's happened to everybody. Ducks break through the ice and get under the ice, and you see them swimming under the ice.
Way.
That's seen that several times. That's been pretty cool. I just hard to pick
one. You've seen so much.
But nothing really stands out as, man, that was pretty crazy. One of the funnest things, I've seen ducks do this a lot, especially once you get kind of more midwinter, more later in December. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of times be calling at him, old Drake fly up behind another one, grab him by the tail. Yeah, seen that a lot. That's pretty fun. The first time I ever seen that, I said, man, wow, look at that. That was cool. But then, you'll see that quite a bit if you really go to watch.
There's some funny creatures, too. They'll get after each other.
Oh, man, they'll chase each other around. We was hunting in the woods one day, and a duck was not shot, but it was one of them good bunches, and we shot into him, and a duck was flying out, and a buddy of mine was shooting at a cripple, and the duck hit him right in the gut. About knocked the wind out of him.
Just flew straight into him.
Flew straight into him. Well, you caught that one. I said, that's catch and release right there.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I always like trying to catch them in the woods, right? If you can get a bunch in right before shooting time and they really can't see, and they'll come to that call. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, I've never truly caught one, but I've got feathers a lot of times, or swatted them. That's always been pretty fun.
Wow, that's crazy. And this last two questions is, if you could share the blind with one person, who would it be?
Oh, man. That I haven't ever hunted with, or that I...
Yeah, let's go who you haven't ever hunted with.
Because it'd be really cool. My dad and my daughter and nephew would hunt together. That'd be cool.
Wow.
But I've hunted with all them. Somebody I've never hunted with that would like to share blind with, besides family.
I think mine would be Phil Robertson.
I think mine would be too. He come to mind pretty quick, and I've met Phil several times, talked to him. But I would like to. He's been at it a long time. I'd like to sit in the blind and talk and just shoot the bull about the stuff we're talking about, right? Get from his perspective and my perspective.
I think that'd be
how
really
far
cool.
off we would be.
Having Si in there too would be.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. One of my early mentors of duck hunting, a fellow named Jim Mittendorf, we called him Uncle Mimi, was an excellent duck caller, duck hunter. He passed before I really was fully involved in the industry, and I would like to be able to tell him now what I get to do. That'd be pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That's man. There's so many people, so many things, so many memories. It's like people ask, man, what's your best hunt ever? Gosh, I don't know. I've had
all of them.
Yeah, all of them. Exactly. What's your worst hunt ever? Man, I don't know.
Yeah. What's your definition of a bad hunt?
That's right. You know what? So it just fun, and thank the good Lord for the opportunity He's given me to do what I get to do.
Yeah. And our last question: what is one thing all duck hunters can do to be better at helping future generations get involved and just also making the waterfowl world a better place? What is one thing we could all do better at?
Great question. One, be positive.
Yeah.
Two, appreciate the resource. Because if we don't take care of the waterfowl resource that's out there, it won't be there to take care of us. So
and that's scary.
It's very scary. When you really think about that, it's very scary. And try to introduce somebody new to the sport. And there's more you can do too. Buy an extra federal duck stamp. Be able to maybe volunteer a local WMA, or maybe there's days that you can go help do things. But more than that, be protective of the resource. Do things. Be a part of Ducks Unlimited. Be a part of Delta Waterfowl. Do things that help the resource. Pay attention to what's going on, and again, try to be mindful that you represent when you go duck hunting and you come back and you go to stop at a restaurant, or you go eat breakfast in the morning before you go hunt, and you're wearing your hunting clothes. Be respectful, because you represent the rest of us when you're out in public or other places, and try to put yourself or us as outdoors people in a positive light.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, Mr. Jim, I cannot thank you enough again for joining the Ducks Unlimited podcast, coming on as a guest. It has been such an honor to me, a privilege. I know that I learned a thing or two. And, like I said, thank you for taking the time to come on over to the headquarters and knock this podcast out. Also, huge thanks to Mr. Chris Isaac, our producer of the Ducks Unlimited podcast. And thank you so much to all the Ducks Unlimited podcast listeners. Y'all stay safe out there, and God bless.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to the DUPodcast, sponsored by Purina Pro Plan, the official performance dog food of Ducks Unlimited. Purina Pro Plan, always advancing. Also proudly sponsored by Bird Dog Whiskey and Cocktails. Whether you're winding down with your best friend or celebrating with your favorite crew, Bird Dog brings award-winning flavor to every moment. Enjoy responsibly. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit ducks.org/DUPodcast. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Ducks Unlimited. Until next time, stay tuned to the Ducks.